Hello and welcome to Hearthstone. So today I'm going to be making a video. It's going to be a little bit of an overview about a deck that I've been trying out recently. It's a little bit of a gimmick deck. The deck is a Mill Druid deck. It's a pretty interesting deck. So I'll just get right into it. So it has the Innervate. Innervate, it's not really meant for ramping cards out. It's meant for sort of giving you a bit more reach into let's say you want to play Tree of Life and then play something after, or play something before Tree of Life to remove something that you don't want to be healed. So it allows you to just play Starfall earlier, do a lot of stuff. It's a good card. It's a one-of because, like I said, it's not meant to ramp out like big threats, because this is not a ramp deck. Naturalize. Naturalize is a great card in a Mill Druid deck. I mean, it does exactly what you want to. It allows you to destroy a minion, which for Mill Druid is really great because you want to be mitigating all the threats that your opponent plays. So you want to have a lot of removal, and you also want your opponent to draw more cards than you are. So then when you get to that late game, when you start fatiguing, they'll start fatiguing before you, and then they'll die first. Wrath, another great card because so in the early game, what you want to be doing, so before generally your Tree of Life and before you, when you don't have a lot of cards drawn yet, you want to just be removing every single threat that they play. And it's not just big threats that you want to be removing. You want to be removing absolutely everything that they play. So Wrath is a really good card. You're going to be playing it more for the 3 damage to a minion than the 1 damage in drawing a card, because you don't really want to be drawing a card in a deck like this. You want to be dealing 3 damage. Drawing a card is sort of counterintuitive to what you want to be doing, because you don't want to be drawing cards. You want your opponent to be drawing cards, and if you're drawing more cards than your opponent, well, you're just going to lose. Acidic Swamp Ooze, another good card here. It might seem a bit odd, but it's actually a good card in this deck because this deck is all about removal, and you have a lot of minion removal in the deck, but you don't really have any way of destroying weapons other than this. And if your opponent is playing weapons and just hitting you in the face with that weapon every turn, you're gonna end up dying because you can heal the weapon damage off, but it's better to be able to remove their weapon before they get to hit you with it. So that's why Acidic Swamp Ooze is in there. Ironbeak Owl allows you to deal with it, just more removal, really. I mean, silence isn't really removal, but it sort of is. It allows you to deal with really bad death rattles mainly. So you're going to want to use it on big death rattle creatures like Savannah Highmane or something like that. Wild Pyromancer, great AoE. In a Druid deck which generally doesn't have a lot of AoE, Wild Pyromancer is great because it allows you to do some more AoE, which is something that Druid is really missing, other than Starfall, but Starfall is a bit overcosted. Youthful Brewmaster allows you to bring back cards like Coldlight Oracle, so you can make your opponent draw more cards so you can get to the fatigue games faster. It allows you to bring back cards like Big Game Hunter if you want to remove a bigger minion, Grove Tender to draw more cards. It's just a good card. I mean, you're not going to be drawing cards, so Youthful Brewmaster allows you to bring cards back, so then you don't have to be drawing more cards, because you're just bringing them back off the battlefield. Healing Touch, great. You want to be healing as much as you can in this deck, because you want to have more health than they do by the time you get to fatigue. Because if you're at 30 health and you're both fatiguing, but they're at like 24, you're gonna win the game just because it's whoever has less health going into fatigue. Big Game Hunter, great card, allows you to deal with really big threats. So if really big threats are a big problem in this deck, because if they drop down something that has like 8 attack like a Ragnaros, and if you were taking the damage from that Ragnaros, you're surely gonna lose, even if you can remove it a bit later on. You need to remove it immediately, which is why Big Game Hunter is really great, because it allows you to remove big threats immediately. Coldlight Oracle does exactly what you want. Your opponent draws 2 cards. You draw 2 cards too, but it's more about your opponent. It's more about getting to fatigue faster than making them draw more cards than you. So this is really effective. It allows you to get to your win condition faster because your win condition is the fatigue. Dancing Swords, another great card. It's a big body for 3 mana. It's a 3 mana 4/4, which is great. And it does what you want it to. It draws your opponent a card. Grove Tender, another good card. 3 mana 2/4. Each player draws a card. It does what you want it to. It draws them a card. It also gives you the option of getting a mana crystal if you want to do some sort of a combo, or if you need to have a bit more mana for something that you want. But generally you're going to be doing it for drawing cards. You're going to be playing it for drawing cards. It's a 2/4, pretty good. Poison Seeds. Poison Seeds is really good with Starfall. It allows you to clear the board. It is 9 mana, but it's a good card. And if they have a lot of big threats on the board, even if you're not killing them, you're still turning them into 2/2. So it's still a good card. It also allows for a lot of your minions in this deck aren't that big. So you're not really going to be turning a lot of... Your minions aren't going to be losing that much value, but their minions are going to be losing a lot of value. So it's a good card in this deck. I mean, in other Druid decks, Poison Seeds is pretty bad because Druid decks tend to play big minions, like in Ramp Druid. You don't really want to be turning your Ragnaros into a 2/2. But in this deck, it's fine if you turn your Acidic Swamp Ooze into a 2/2 or your Coldlight Oracle, which is already a 2/2, into a 2/2. It's a good card. Swipe, another good one. It's AoE and direct damage all together. So what this allows you to do is basically just remove a lot of cards from the board. It's exactly what you want. More removal. You play this in the early game. Well, throughout the whole game. But it's a good card. Keeper of the Grove. Keeper of the Grove works very well with Poison Seeds because you can Poison Seeds and then take out one of the trees that it creates. You can also use it for the silence effect, which works very well with stuff like Death Rattles. Overall, 4 mana 2/4. It's an okay body with a really good effect. And it does what you want it to. I mean, it's either removal or it's silence, which is exactly what you want in this deck. So you can take out smaller targets or you can take out bigger Death Rattles. Starfall. Starfall is the best AoE that Druid has at the moment. And it's really good in this deck because you really want AoE. Starfall is really your only AoE aside from Poison Seeds and Wild Pyro. So it's really essential in this deck. Healbot, it's pretty much the same as Healing Touch. It's a bit more mana, but you get a 3/3 body as well. Generally in this deck, you're not going to be hitting face with minions. Generally, you want to just trade minions off. So it's really effective for that. Force of Nature. Force of Nature might seem really odd in this deck, but basically what it is it allows you to deal 6 damage spread upon multiple targets. So it's a good card. It's a bit more of a tech card in this deck. It's not necessary. So if you don't have it, it's fine. And Tree of Life. Tree of Life is pretty essential in this deck because if you're at really low health, and they're going to be at high health because you're not hitting their face too often. So in the late game, when you're at lower health, when you're at a way lower health total than your opponent is, you can just slap this card down, return yourself to 30. They're not going to gain a lot of health, but you are. So it's really great, and it allows you to extend the game into fatigue really effectively. Alright, so that's the deck. In future videos, you're going to see me playing this deck. I'm going to play a couple of games after this, and I'll put them up on the channel. Hope you enjoyed the deck, and try it out. It's really fun. Alright, see you next time.